guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am back with another video. If you're new, thank you for joining me. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for coming back. So today I'm going to be talking about my experience and my pregnancy journey and the difference between the first pregnancy and the second pregnancy. So the difference between when I was pregnant with Sebastian and then when I was pregnant with Arabella. And I've been thinking about doing this video, and then I did one of those ask me anything on my Instagram stories, and somebody asked, you know, what was the experience like between the first and second pregnancy. So I thought, let me film a video on it because I was thinking about it. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. As always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up because it helps my channel, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. So yeah, let's get this conversation going. Okay, so the first very obvious difference is when I found out I was pregnant with Sebastian, I was in Ghana at the time. We had been married for almost a year, so we got married in the beginning of 2016 in January, and then I went back to Ghana in November, and then I was pregnant pretty much straight away. And so yeah, I found out in Ghana. This time though, obviously I'm here in Australia, and hubby is here with me as well. So obviously that's one of the biggest differences. And then when we found out, instead of me staying in Ghana for 6 months, which is what we had planned, I cut my trip short and came back to Aussie early. So I think I came back at almost 4 months. And obviously this time round, you know, I didn't have to travel back anywhere. So yeah, that's the first big difference. Okay, so the symptoms I had when I was pregnant with Seb. Okay, in the beginning, I had that bitter taste in my mouth. I was really tired. I slept a lot when I was in Ghana when I found out I was pregnant. After that 3 months and when that, you know, bitter taste left my mouth, I got a serious appetite and I was eating a lot. My favorite foods at the time, because I was in Ghana, was banku and tilapia. I ate that like nobody's business, dokno and meko and shito and fish, you know, the local Ghanaian food. So yeah, I ate a lot of that when I was in Ghana, and then when I came back to Aussie, I still had a craving. So Mama E was making me a lot of those foods. So yeah, when I was pregnant with Sebastian, I gained about 10 kilos. So yeah, I put on quite a bit of weight. And then, you know, after I gave birth, I shed, you know, some of it. Obviously, after you give birth, you will shed some weight, but then I put some back on again. So my weight was a bit of an issue for me after I gave birth to Sebastian, and I kind of struggled getting the weight off. Oh, and also with Sebastian, I basically had no morning sickness. I was eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, with no repercussions. But with Bella, morning sickness was, yeah. It was not fun at all. A lot of throwing up, being nauseous all the time. I literally had to chew gum every morning when I woke up because I had this phlegm in my throat that would not go away for the whole 9 months until I gave birth. So every morning I would chew down to produce saliva to kind of push the phlegm down, because it was a constant feeling of having something stuck in my throat. Couple that with throwing up as well. There were certain foods that, you know, just the smell would make me throw up. Like I couldn't stand the smell of lamb when it was cooking. What else? I couldn't eat eggs because every time I ate eggs, like, you know, fried eggs or scrambled eggs in the morning, I would throw up. So yeah, this pregnancy was not fun at all. You know, with Seb, you know, I was moving about and, you know, I was pretty much enjoying the pregnancy, you know, watching my bump grow, styling it up and having fun with all that. But also when I was pregnant with Seb, I was 33, and with Bella, I'm 37. So yeah, that also makes a difference. And obviously, you know, getting pregnant later on in life, it's not as easy on the body because you're a lot older. Although with Seb, I was on bed rest. With Bella, I wasn't necessarily on bed rest, but I just couldn't move around as much. My stomach got bigger a lot quicker because obviously it's the second pregnancy. So I was carrying a huge weight for a longer period of time, which just made it uncomfortable to sleep, to sit, to stand, to move. Everything hurt this pregnancy. I can definitely say that. With Seb, it was a bit more, yeah, I guess I enjoyed it a bit more. And also being the first one, you don't know what to expect, so you're just kind of going with the flow. This time, because it's the second time, you know what's coming, so you're kind of preparing yourself. And I think, you know, maybe I was a little bit more worried this time because, you know, it's the second time and I know what's coming ahead and what to expect. And you know, hoping everything's gonna go well. So yeah, there were quite some differences in that aspect. Cravings. Okay, so with Seb, the cravings that I had were more for like, yeah, Ghanaian food, you know, when I was in Ghana, and then, you know, snacking on chips and that kind of stuff. My favorite was Red Rock Deli, the sweet chili flavor one. This time with Bella, I wouldn't say I had, actually no, my craving was probably Subway. I had a lot of Subway during this pregnancy. It just tasted so good with those jalapenos on it. So yeah, I would say that was probably my biggest craving this pregnancy. Okay, so I touched up on this already, but with Sebastian, I think my bump really came out around the 5-month mark. I would say with Bella, it came out a lot earlier. I think by 3 months I was already kind of showing. So that was a noticeable difference. And then my bump got super big this pregnancy. So when I was going for my checkups and they were measuring my belly each time, they said my belly was growing bigger than the number of weeks I was pregnant. So they were saying that, you know, Bella was a bit on the chubby side. But, you know, when she came out, she was fine. Her weight was normal. But yeah, my bump was huge this pregnancy. You guys would have seen that. Okay, so with Sebastian, I was overdue, so I went into the 41-week mark, and I was literally a day from getting induced, and then my water broke. So yeah, that was a relief that I didn't have to get induced. With Bella, I gave birth to her a week before I was, like a week and a bit before I was due, so like the 39-week mark. With Sebastian, when my water broke, it was to the hospital, and then things progressed from there. With Bella though, I think the week leading up to giving birth, I literally went to the hospital like every day that week because, you know, I'd wake up and I thought my water had broken because I felt a trickle on my legs, and then I'd go into the hospital to be certain, and then they'll do the test and they'll say, no, your water hasn't broken because, you know, the amniotic fluid was still intact or whatever. So I did that like on a Tuesday, went back on a Wednesday because I saw blood, and then I was like, okay, just to be safe, I went to the hospital again, and then I went back to the hospital again because I wasn't sure and I wanted to be safe. And when I went that particular day, they said, you know, they're not too sure. It looks like the water might have broken, but it wasn't like your water has broken, you know, and it was gushing or anything like that. But then my contractions had started like probably a week and a bit into me giving birth, and they were quite intense. They were consistent. They got stronger and stronger, but because my water technically didn't look like it had broken, they weren't too sure. So anyway, they sent me back home and they said, you know, come back in the morning because just to be safe, if your water has broken, there's a certain amount of time where you then have to come back to the hospital because baby is now exposed, you know, to infections and that kind of stuff. So we planned to go back the following morning, but we didn't make it to the following morning because at 2 a.m. that morning I felt more trickling. So I was like, no, we got to go back to the hospital. We went back in, they, you know, strapped me up and were checking the baby, the heart rate and my contractions and that kind of thing. It was getting more and more intense. I was having to breathe through it. So yeah, they just kind of kept me on observation. They were planning to send me back home again. Then I went to use the bathroom and then the water broke, like for real, made a huge mess. And I called the nurses in and they're like, oh, that's great. It means we're having a baby. So yeah, from then on, probably less than an hour and I was in the birthing suite and we were gonna have a baby. Okay, so with my hospital appointments, because with Seb, I was in Ghana for the first like almost 4 months, I missed out on those early hospital appointments and then I just kind of picked up from there. So I was going to my regular scheduled appointments. But I had Seb in Brisbane at Mater Mother's Hospital, and then I had Bella here in Toowoomba. In terms of the hospital care, hubby wasn't here when I was pregnant with Seb, so I went to a lot of the appointments by myself, and he was here this time, so he accompanied me to, you know, most of them. Unless he was working. So yeah, it wasn't as enjoyable going by myself with Seb, and then I loved having hubby here this time to go through the journey together. Now I would say the care in terms of both hospitals, the Toowoomba hospital here, their care was amazing. All my antenatal appointments, you know, wonderful. In terms of, you know, the appointments, both hospitals, it was pretty much the same during the time I was pregnant, but the aftercare here in Toowoomba was way better than at the Mater Mothers. So with the appointment where you get to see the gender of the baby, with Sebastian, I went with my mum, so she was with me when we found out I was having a boy. This time with Bella, I was with hubby, and I've been praying for a girl like since the time I found out I was pregnant, and I literally was just praying, God, thank you for protecting my baby girl. Like before I found out that I was having a girl, I was speaking and praying it into existence. So when we went for the appointment and the lady was like, do you want to know the gender? And Kofi and I were like, yeah. She's like, it's a girl. And then we were like, yes! Like we were so excited. Like it was very memorable being able to experience that together. So that was nice. Okay, so onto the labor and delivery. With Sebastian, when I went into the birthing suite, it was pre-COVID time. So, you know, there were no rules and restrictions. So literally, like, my whole family was there from the time that I went into the hospital, like in the early hours of the morning, and we called my parents in Toowoomba. I was living in Brisbane at the time. They drove up to Brisbane. My brother came from Toowoomba as well. I was living with my other two brothers. So yeah, everyone was there. We were all waiting in the waiting room area until they got the birthing suite ready for me. And then basically throughout the 12 hours I was in labor, you know, the boys were coming in and out. I mean, my mum was there consistently. My dad was coming in and out. It was like a really nice vibe. Now with the contractions with Sebastian, because it was the first time, I was so confused by what was going on with my body that there was a lot of screaming because I was in a lot of pain. They gave me the gas. It was useless. So I got the epidural with Sebastian. And when I got that epidural, guys, life was so sweet. I was chillaxing. I was having conversations. I was on the phone. I called my auntie and I was like, hey, auntie, you know, I'm in the hospital. I'm in labor. And she's like, and you sound so good. I said, auntie, they gave me this epidural and I can't feel anything. Like I was having a good old time. So that was really good. I was having conversations with my brothers and we were laughing, and it was a really good vibe having the family there. And then getting close to the 12-hour mark, I started feeling the contractions again, because during that time where the epidural was working, I didn't feel any contractions. My legs were numb. They would do like an ice test every now and then to just make sure that I still couldn't feel anything. Then at one point I started feeling a little something. So I told the nurse, you know, I'm starting to feel a bit of pain. So they went and had a look and they're like, oh, we see your head and we see hair. You guys know how much hair, you know, Sebastian had when he was born. And they're like, all right, it's time to have a baby. And because the epidural was just wearing off, it literally was a, okay, push. So I did the push, the push, the push, and the baby came out. And that was it. It was so easy. And Kofi was on a video call, seeing the whole thing. They pulled the baby out, put Seb on my chest, and I burst into tears because the warmth of his body and just the relief, you know, yeah, I cried. So yeah, that was Seb's labor and delivery. 12 hours. I went into the hospital around 10 a.m. gave birth around 10 p.m. Now with Bella, once they prepared the birthing suite and I went in, my contractions were already pretty intense. Now luckily during that time there were no COVID cases in our state, so I could have the family there once again, so that was cool. Except this time my brothers were in Brisbane. They didn't come down until after I had the baby, so it was just my mum and dad, and then Seb came in briefly. Obviously hubby was there with me the whole time. So then, you know, dad took Seb away once things started getting intense, and mum and hubby stayed. Yeah, so it progressed really quickly. The pain was intense quickly. The contractions were strong and intense. But this time, because it was the second time, I knew what to do, and breathing through it really helped. I breathed through all those contractions like a G. Even my mum was like, but I'm so proud of you, because I just kept on breathing and breathing and just breathing through it. Then finally they're like, you know, do you want some gas? So they gave me the gas, and I continued to breathe every time a contraction came with the gas, and that was okay. It you know, it got me through for as long as I could do it, until I couldn't do it anymore. And then I was like, nah, I need the epidural. I was like, give me the epidural, guys, give me the epidural. So they, you know, quickly went to get the, you know, the anesthesiologist. He came in, and then I was also on a drip. What was the drip for? I think, I can't remember, but I was also on the drip as well. So when the anesthesiologist came in, he was like, I need to do a blood test and check something. And I was like, oh my gosh, just give me the epidural. Anyway, I think they did it. And then he said, I'm happy with it. So they scrubbed my back ready for it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there's pain. I think I feel something. And then the midwife, had a look, and there was a head. So I couldn't get the epidural this time. So I had a natural birth. I felt every ounce of pain. It was the most excruciating, painful pain I've ever experienced in my life. I'm not going to give you the details, but yeah, it was very, very painful and very different from having an epidural and then not having an epidural. I felt everything. Pushing was so hard because my body was just so confused at the pain that I was feeling, that when they were telling me to push, I was like, I'm pushing. They're like, no, you're not pushing. So yeah, it was painful. Oh my goodness, so painful. But anyway, by God's grace, we got through that experience. When I finally pushed her out and they put her on my body, I cried again, because this time the tears were because it was so painful pushing through it, and I was just so relieved that I was able to push her out and I could finally feel her warm body on my chest, and I had my baby girl that I had prayed for. So that was also a painful but beautiful experience. And then, having hubby there, and him getting to see, what a woman goes through. He has a newfound respect for me. He's like, nah. Every time someone's like, oh, congratulations, he's like, don't congratulate me, congratulate my wife. So yeah, it was amazing having him there. Mum was very proud of me because I had a natural birth. You know how our Ghanaian mothers are. They want us to do everything natural, So she was very proud of me for not getting the epidural and just pushing, the baby out naturally. So yeah, that was the difference between, when I gave birth to Seb and when I gave birth to Bella. So yeah, post-pregnancy with Sebastian, I was home for a few days and I ended up back in the hospital because I got mastitis. My breasts, the ducts were all blocked. It went under my armpit. I ended up back in the hospital and I was on antibiotics for about 3 days to get rid of the infection. And then I came back home, and then I left Brisbane and moved to Toowoomba, which is where I am currently. And then I only got one home visit from the midwives. Here in Toowoomba with Bella, after I gave birth, once again, I got the mastitis. Actually, I had the mastitis throughout the pregnancy. So the breasts were engorged and blocked, and I had these huge lumps in my armpit. But they said just to leave it alone until I gave birth. Once I gave birth, I had to express a lot. I was pumping a lot, getting lots of milk, like getting full bottles of milk when I was pumping, because I constantly had to, get rid of that milk so it wouldn't block it. But then the mastitis flared up again because I had it previously, and it was so painful, guys, like so painful. I ended up having to go to my GP, who gave me antibiotics, which then finally helped it settle, and then I started feeling okay again. So that first week after having Bella was very, very painful because of the mastitis, but the at-home visits from the midwives were like, in that 2-week period, I saw them like 3 or 4 times. And then I get to see them every month until Bella turns 1, which is fantastic. Whereas, like I said, in Brisbane, I only saw them once, and then that was it. So, and it being my first pregnancy, it wasn't enough. I also ended up getting an infection from the, is it the cannula? The thing that they inject so they can put the fluid for the drip. Where they put it when I got the infection with Sebastian, the mastitis, it ended up infecting the area. So then I had to, yeah, it was a whole situation. So yeah, the after pregnancy care was, like I said, way better here in Toowoomba. And then in terms of baby, Bella, it was rough the first 6 weeks, but luckily hubby had time off from work for the first like 5 weeks. So it really helped. I was able to express. He was able to feed her during the night, so I could get some rest, because Bella's not particular about whether it's a breast or breast milk in a bottle. She'll take whatever. She loves to eat. She loves to drink. With Seb, I didn't breastfeed for very long because I wasn't producing as much milk. I believe the mastitis had something to do with that. This time, although I had the mastitis, I was producing a lot of milk. So It was painful, but it was good at the same time because Bella had more than enough to drink. Seb started formula very early, around the 3 to 4 month mark. But this time also, because I'm here in Toowoomba and Mama E is here, she's cooking all the abenkwane, susua, and bendro, and all those things that help produce breast milk that they drink back home. Mum is using all those ingredients in all the food she cooks for me. She's still cooking for me so I can continue to produce milk, and Bella's getting more than enough because I do want to try and breastfeed Bella for as long as possible before I introduce formula. I'd love to be able to breastfeed and then add the solids and not introduce formula till later on. So fingers crossed the milk will keep flowing. In terms of how Seb and Bella are different, when Seb was a baby, he would basically only cry when he was hungry. Once he ate, he was cool. Bella is a short feeder, so she feeds for a short period of time, sleeps a little bit, and then wakes up again. So I'm constantly feeding her, which is very exhausting. Whereas Seb would have a good feed and sleep and be cool. Bella will do short feeds, sleep for a little bit, cry, then you'd feed her again. And that was how it was for the first 1 month, 6 weeks. She's still a short feeder now, but we're getting longer sleeps from her. In the beginning, honestly, it was like every hour she was awake, like for the first few weeks during the night. We were not getting any sleep at all, but now we're getting like 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 hours sleep at a time. So she's growing up, the patterns are changing. So it's just been beautiful being able to experience the 2 different pregnancies, 2 different kids, although they are a spitting image of each other, the girl and boy version of each other. Everyone's saying I gave birth to the same baby twice. So yeah, I'm loving it. Motherhood is not easy. It is hard. It's tiring. It's a lot of work. But it's so fulfilling. There are just so many precious moments, and I just thank God for this blessing and being able to do it twice and having my boy and my girl. So yeah, that's all, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you do like this video, and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can see all the videos that I upload in the future. All right, thank you guys again, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.